The Kidnapping ****. On June 10, 1991, 11-year-old Jaycee Lee Dugard was walking to her school bus stop in South Lake Tahoe, California, when a car pulled up beside her. Before she could react, a man used a stun gun on her, rendering her helpless. She was then pulled into the vehicle by Philip Garrido, while his wife, Nancy Garrido, drove away. Jaycee's stepfather, Carl Probin, witnessed the abduction from their home and desperately tried to chase the car on his bicycle, but he couldn't catch up. He immediately called the police, but despite extensive searches and media coverage, Jaycee was nowhere to be found. After her abduction, Jaycee Dugard was brought to the home of Philip and Nancy Garrido in Antioch, California. At first, she was locked in a small shed in their backyard, which was soundproofed and bolted shut. She had no access to the outside world and was forced to use a bucket as a toilet. Philip Garrido, a convicted rapist and sex offender, repeatedly abused her both physically and psychologically. For the first 7 months, Jaycee was kept in complete isolation. Garrido controlled every aspect of her life, convincing her that escape was impossible. He told her terrifying lies about the outside world, saying that people were searching for her, but wanted to harm her. This psychological manipulation made her fearful of trying to run away. Eventually, her captivity changed. Garrido moved Jaycee into a larger tented area in the backyard, where she was still hidden behind tall fences and tarps. Around the age of 14, she became pregnant with her first child. She had no medical assistance and had to endure labor alone with only Garrido's help. Despite the horrific circumstances, she loved her daughter deeply and did everything she could to care for her. Jaycee gave birth to a second daughter a few years later. Garrido allowed her to raise them, and she took on the role of a mother, trying to create a sense of normalcy for them. She taught them how to read and write, using old magazines and books that Garrido provided. Despite their captivity, Jaycee tried to protect her. Over time, Garrido started involving Jaycee in his business, a small printing company. He also forced her to listen to his bizarre religious rants, in which he claimed he could control sound with his mind. Though she was occasionally allowed outside in the backyard, she remained under constant watch and never had the opportunity to escape. Daughters from the reality of their situation. In August 2009, Philip Garrido visited the University of California, Berkeley, with Jaycee's 2 daughters. He wanted to hold a religious event on campus and requested permission from security officers. His behavior was erratic, and the 2 young girls with him seemed unusually shy and withdrawn. Suspicious, the campus police officers decided to run a background check on him. They discovered that Garrido was a registered sex offender on parole for previous crimes. This raised alarms, especially since he was with 2 young girls who weren't listed as his children. The officers reported their concerns to Garrido's parole officer, who had been monitoring him but had never searched the backyard. When Garrido was called in for questioning on August 26, 2009, he brought Jaycee and her daughters with him. Initially, she refused to reveal her true identity. She was still deeply afraid and conditioned to protect her captors. However, when investigators pressed further, she eventually wrote down her real name. After 18 years, she was finally free. Imprisonment: 431 years to life, 36 years to life. Nancy claimed she had been manipulated by her husband, but Jaycee later stated that Nancy was just as involved in her suffering. She had helped abduct her, watched as Philip abused her, and never once tried to stop him. After her rescue, Jaycee was reunited with her mother, Terry Probin, who had never given up searching for her. Adjusting to the outside world was difficult, as she had been isolated for so long. She had to learn how to use modern technology and navigate a world she hadn't seen since she was 11 years old. In 2011, she published a memoir, in which she described her years in captivity. She later wrote a second book, which focused on her healing journey. Jaycee founded which helps survivors of trauma and missing children adjust to life after captivity. Despite the horrors she endured, she has remained strong and focused on helping others. Her story is one of unimaginable suffering but also resilience, hope, and survival.